community consultation, maybe there's a bit of a understanding or an expectation that council will simply roll over on these appeals. I could talk to the fact that the secondary suite bylaw has created this situation where we have these huge footprints that gobble up the property because of the fact that we have minimum requirements of the secondary suite bylaw. And that I could talk about the fact that the secondary suite bylaw is a back door to a multiple family housing project and has become that. I could speak and address the issue that water and waste, that if this applicant had come forward and wanted to do an RMFS, would have hit a roadblock with the water and waste officials who are consistently rejecting such projects, saying, no, you can only have 3 toilets instead of 4. In other words, 3 units instead of 4. And by going this route, the development community has figured a way around the water and waste officials, even though they're adding the same amount of toilets to the same pipe that the same department would rule out of order and not let a proponent come forward and pull up a building permit. I could speak to the fact that we've had hearing after hearing after hearing on these items. And yet we have our good planners here from the city of Winnipeg, yet no one yet in senior management of the planning department has recognized that there is something going on here that we got to address. And I don't fault planners that are here today. I don't fault middle management. I fault senior management that we've got an issue that has to be addressed. And I don't think it's going to be addressed with what I've read in the infill guidelines. I think it's just going to go on and on and on because we haven't worked with the neighborhoods to start addressing the underlying issues that's driving them, and that's their inherent belief and love of their community, and that what they see, which we don't necessarily see because they live there, and what we could definitely address as other cities have. I could speak to the, I won't use the UGLY, aesthetically not aesthetically, but aesthetically challenging look of the buildings. You know, hardy board, last time I checked, is one of the cheapest materials you could use out there for siding. It kind of has replaced, you know, and yeah, there's different types of hardy board. There's higher end hardy board, there's lower end hardy board, but typically the stuff that's bought are not the higher end. You buy them in bulk and it's just replaced vinyl siding. Frankly, I don't think a lot of effort was gone into the design, the exterior elevations of this building. The rear, definitely not. You look at it. I could talk to the fact that it's a cookie cutter design. I could speak to the impact. Parking, you could argue 1 for 1 is not a big impact. It's not the end of the world. However, I'm going to come back to that in my phone. And I could speak to the fact, for example, Madam Chair, of the loss of mature trees and the fact that the backyard is going to be approximately 400 square feet, if that, of green space. However, those are all the arguments to support my motion that I'm not going to make. The motion, what I am going to say is the most touching comment. I don't know, and it could be ruled out of order. And if I'm ruled out of order, so be it. But it's the human part of this, and that was where Mr. Bailey, at the end of his presentation, spoke about his daughter, who's 10 years old, who has lost her eyesight, and that this will impact her ability to use the back lane. And you can't put that in writing, and it's not applicable to planning, and he left it to the very end, and it's something that I can only imagine. Anyway.
Thank you.
Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Wyatt. You put many various comments on the record, some of which I concur with. I will be supporting your motion. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary?
Have words for the public record.
That's carried. Go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you for your presentation, or thank you for your comments, Councillor Wyatt. There, you know, I was going back and forth in terms of this development, talking about the context of the area. Certainly, the residents of the Glenwood Neighbourhood Association have spoken about that. He also spoke about pacing of infill in their area. Again, for me, and I concur with you, Councillor Wyatt, that, you know, what this boiled down to is the presentation that was done by Mr. Bailey, and you know, the real impacts that it will have for his daughter. and not that one person should halt development in our community, but I do want to be sensitive to some of the challenges that let's put it this way. I want to ensure that our city is inclusive for everybody. With the challenge, from an ethnocultural perspective as well as an accessibility perspective. So, in that instance, there would be an impact to the adjoining property, and that's what our bylaw states. And for that reason, I'm supporting your recommendation in terms of this appeal.
Thank you. Next section, Councillor Wyatt.
I'm gonna move that the appeal be allowed and order DAB 229564 /